This is the Unit 17 lesson. It starts on page 233 and it is about suggestions and advice. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to start actually on page 234, so if you would like to flip there with me. One of the signs that we're going to learn this week is bored or boring. So that looks like this. Bored or boring. So that sign can be used to express a feeling like, yeah, I don't really want to go, to school because learning about math is boring. Okay, so you can use it in that way. Um, you're not interested, there's nothing to do, that type of thing. Or there's another way that you can use the sign for bored. So this is actually right on the top of page 234. It's also used to express in strong terms that one does not want to do something. Okay, so like he's saying in the example, explain again, bored eye. Like, I'm not going to explain that again to you. Okay, I'm done. Like, we're done. So you can use it either way. So most often I do see it used as like, oh, school is boring, but I work in school with teenagers, so that's probably why. But there is that other way that you can use the sign for bored too. Um, all right, so go ahead and go through those practice sentences and then flip over and read about that cultural note on page 235. So this kind of talks about bowling leagues, which are a big thing in deaf culture. Fun fact, I've interpreted for a bowling league for 4 years. One of my deaf students was in high school and part of the bowling team for that long, and I was at every bowling competition every Saturday for many, many years. So um, it is a big deaf thing to do, is to get involved with bowling. So you can read a little bit about that there. Um, it's just kind of fun. I mean, who doesn't like to go bowling, right? So next up, there is a grammar note also on page 235. They're talking about the signs for every month and every year. So remember we talked about a few weeks ago, like next year and last year, right? Last month, next month, last week, next week. So this is a little different. When you want to say every month, you sign it twice. So this means like monthly. Also, this can be the sign for rent, right? Because rent is due every month. So monthly, every month. Anytime you have something that's normally signed once, but you repeat it in ASL, it means it's continuous. So another example of that would be like, we know the sign for sick, like your head and your stomach, sick. But when you move that in a circular continuous motion, it means disease, right? So similar idea here. So we have month when you sign it one time, or every month when you do it continuously, okay? And it's the same thing for every year. So we have year, next year, every year, every year. Okay, so it's that continuous motion. It's saying like next year, next year, next year. That means from the years on out, every year. All right, flipping over to page 236, there's some good practice to take a look at there. I do want to point something out at the very bottom in that last comic strip. The way that they gloss this sign is H-U-H, huh? Huh? Um, and it's just kind of a fun sign to know. So it's this, huh? So if I'm signing something and I really want to clarify that it's a question, so my eyebrows are up. I'm indicating that it's a question, a yes or no question anyway. But if I want to really emphasize that it's a question, then I add this sign to it. Do you really want to? You want to meet again next week? All right. Kind of a fun one to know. Okay. And again, I just want to point out, make sure that you're doing all these practice sentences when they've got that line above it with a Q, that's a question, an open-ended question. I'm sorry, a yes or no question when it's just the Q. And then when it says WHQ, that's the open-ended. So remember, yes, no question, open-ended question. Make sure you're practicing your eyebrows and marking those topics of the sentence. Another note on the bottom of page 237 talks about the feedback that signers give each other. So when two people are signing, you'll often see head nods happening. People might be signing sure or fine or okay, really to indicate that they're understanding what you're signing. And it's a very common thing to do, and it's a polite thing to do, is to show that you are understanding and getting what the other person is saying and giving that feedback, so that the person needs to clarify, if they knows if they need to clarify or not. Because if you kind of go straight from this to, huh? And that happens when I'm interpreting too. If I'm interpreting something and they're getting it, and then I interpret another concept that they didn't quite get the first time, it's, huh? Re-explain that, move on with the process, right? So feedback is polite. Next up, on page 238, there is a note about the sign for approximately, which we kind of hit on last week. Remember, we talked about the sign for like, it's near there, around that area, local in that area. And again, that's the sign for approximately. So here we're talking about using that sign with money and with age. So my car cost around $5,000. My dad is about 60 years old. All right, so those are a couple different ways that you can use that sign. Make sure that you are practicing that. And just as a little reminder, this was also from ASL 1, but it kind of pops up here again, and it will throughout your sign language using career. But the dollars, so we've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, $9. That's how you can incorporate that, and then $10 and above. So just as a reminder, make sure you're going through these sentences, like I said, practicing your proper facial expression. Another grammar note on page 241 talks about should, better, advise, warn, suggest, or maybe. So that's the giving advice part of this lesson. So when you use those signs like should, better, advise, warn, suggest, that's, you're kind of like asking a question and you're asking for advice. One of the signs that they use on this page on 241 is the sign for nothing, as in like it's better to say nothing. 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 So before we've talked about nothing, like none versus nothing, like there's nothing there. This specific is like, don't say anything. Okay, keep your mouth shut, get a lawyer, just don't say anything. All right, now let's talk about the vocab. So vocab starts on page 242. We have why not? Why not? You can do, well, she here in the book is doing the this why not? Why not? And that kind of blends together better than signing why not? Why not? Why not? When? 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 This is my non-dominant hand here, and I do like a circle around. When? When do we go to school? All right, so we have advise and advice for noun-verb pairs. So if you are going to advise someone, or this is like give advice, I'm going to give you advice, I'm going to advise you, versus I have an advisor, the noun. So give advice, advisor. 1, 2. And what's happening is my non-dominant's in a fist, and my dominant hand is like, whew, taking the words, putting them right out there. Okay? Suggest, offer, or propose. So we had talked about like wait and serve, like waiting tables and serving, and that was this. Now suggest or offer, propose is a little different, okay? So my non-dominant is here in front of me, my dominant is to just where it would naturally be near my arm, and then I bring it up. I propose this idea to my boss, he didn't like it. I'm suggesting that you do get a lawyer. I bring this offering to God. So this is a sign used for all of that. Warn and caution is the same sign. So they are doing it with an open fist or open hand like this. Warn, you can. I always do it this way with a closed hand. Either one, it doesn't matter. But this is how you'd see it on a quiz. I'm warning you, no cheating. Warn. Bowling, what they're doing here is this. Bowling. The way that I have always signed that with my bowling league and students is bowling. Bowling. Sometimes it's with the 3 because it has the 3 holes in the ball, but this is most common. Bowling, especially in this area. All right, ice skating. All right, so there's a few extra signs I'm going to give you here. So ice skating has got the X's, like you can imagine. You've got, your skates on, you're going on ice. So ice skating versus bent V's. Roller skating, okay? But does anybody still go roller skating? Maybe. It's probably hip to do now, but most people probably rollerblade, okay? So you got your B's, rollerblading. Now we're going to move on to skiing. So skiing again, so remember ice skating is like this because your feet are going back and forth. Skiing is down the hill. Okay? Start at your dominant shoulder and go down the hill with the X's. Skiing. If you want to go sledding, you go sledding. It's like your little person is sitting on a sled going down that hill. So you start in that same spot. Skiing, sledding. Next is surfing. This is a surfboard. Surfing. You can surf this way too. I've never surfed, so I don't really know how the surfboard moves, but surfing. The point is you're standing on a board. Fishing. So this is like you're going fishing with a fishing pole. Fishing. Fishing. Kind of like cast the line, reel it in. Steal. Non-dominant arm is this way. You steal something. Steal. Start with a V, end with a bent V. Steal. You can steal this way too. In the book, this is how they're showing you. Steal or steal. I think I tend to do this one more. Steal, steal. Squeal or tattle. A snitch. Dominant hand is under the chin and you like blurted it out. You tattled. Cheat. So this type of cheat is it can be used for like cheating on a test. Okay, if you're cheating on your spouse, it's a cheat. Like this is a door and you did something behind a closed door that you weren't supposed to. Cheat. Cheat on a test. A lot of times at the school that I work at, we use cheat as in like tempt. Like don't be tempted, don't cheat. But this is another way that you could use that too. Lots of fun signs in this chapter. Lie, cheat, lie, steal. So lie is like under the chin one time. Lie. So remember before we had like pig and dirty. I don't know if that helps you remember that, those kind of maybe make a connection. Lie. Lie. You lie. Don't lie. Lazy was with an L. Tap, tap. Lazy. Don't become a lazy signer. Sign very clear. Lazy. Arrogant. This is one that we've learned before. Remember, this is a sign for like big, cha. We say C-H-A. Cha as in big. When you do that above your head, that means you got a big head. You're egotistical. You're arrogant. Jealous. If you sign this the English way, it's with a J, like near your mouth here. Jealous. The ASL way is this. Jealous. Jealous. It's that same motion, but instead of initializing it with a J, we just use this one. Jealous. Moving on, we're on to page 244. We have quit. 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 So if you can join something and then the opposite is quit. Join and quit. Hire. This is also like invite. And if you circle it, you're welcome. Hire, invite, you're welcome. Terminate or fire. Non-dominant hand is in the fist, and you fire. You're fired. Lay off or release. So we talked about excuse, like, excuse me, where's the bathroom? We have lay off when you do it one time. Lay off. And release, they're talking about specifically you've been released like from your position. So it's not like a release me from that grasp. It's you're released from your duties. You're laid off. Next up is strike or protest. I love this sign. You start with your dominant hand in a fist, you're looking at your palm, and then it goes out. Protest, strike. The workers went on strike. Next up, we have smoking. So this smoking is for specifically a cigarette. As you can imagine, you would be holding a cigarette and smoking like this. And then the sign for a cigarette itself, you take like the rock on sign. This is non-dominant, dominant, cigarette. So smoking a cigarette. Bored. We talked about that already. You just kind of bored. Another way to sign that is by saying dry. Like if this class bores you half to death, I hope it doesn't, but it could be really dry. And if it like bores you all the way to death, it's like super dry. Okay? So you've got like you're bored, you're boring. It's like dry, kind of bored. This also means like wet and dry, but it could be boring. And then if you emphasize it by using all four fingers, it's so boring. Like it's just unbelievably boring. Next is yell, shout, or scream. You can kind of imagine like the words coming out. Ah, yell, shout, scream. Practice. Non-dominant hand is in this shape. Dominant hand is in the A. Practice. You must practice your signs. All right. Exercise. Exercise. Sometimes this is initialized with the E to sign it Englishy, but you can just do it with your fists and exercise. Exercise. We already talked about approximately, around, about, close to. There's lots of different words you can use for that sign. Say. What'd you say? Page. For everyone still using a pager. This sign is actually the same, but it has a new meaning. So it used to mean page back in the day, but now it means text. Like, I'm gonna shoot you a text. Text. This is that nothing sign, like do not say anything. This is very serious. Don't say anything. Keep your mouth shut. Go to bed. This is what they're showing you in the book. It's the U dominant going into bed. You can use it for that. I most often see this like I was admitted to the hospital type going to bed for like many weeks. Like I'm going to be in the hospital for a while. Going to actual bed is like going to bed. You know, I'm going to sleep for the night. This is like I'm going to be in bed for a while. I'm going to be in the hospital. Wake up. This was a repeat. Wake up. These are like your eyes opening. If you sign that quickly, it's surprise. Remember? Surprise. And then discuss. Non-dominant hand is flat here. Dominant is in the one hand shape. And you kind of just go back and forth from like just on your palm. This could be discuss. It could be debate. Discuss. And then less. Like I need to reduce that. I need to reduce the amount of calories I'm eating every day. I should get less sleep. Less. And that's the end of Unit 17.